Well, there's more anger tonight surrounding the investigation into historical child abuse cases. Sky News has learned that documents which included names of survivors of abuse have been published online by the Home Affairs Select Committee. Sky's Social Affairs editor, Afua Hirsch, joins me. Afua, when you think of the subject matter involved in this investigation, one would have assumed that anonymity is central to this investigation's success.
That's absolutely right, Neil. This inquiry is looking at really difficult, historic cases of child sex abuse, and it absolutely relies on the trust of survivors coming forward, sharing very painful and difficult information with it. And it's still at its early stages. You remember it's been through 2 chairs. It's currently without a chair. We're expecting the announcement of a new one anytime soon. Now, in that context where so much has gone wrong, the last thing it needs is more mistakes. That's exactly what happened. Now, last week, Home Affairs Select Committee Chair Keith Vaz talked about transparency, and on Monday he decided to publish some documents. This is him in the Home Affairs Select Committee on Monday explaining why he decided he wanted to publish these documents.
Every time we seem to ask questions, people are referring us back to the Home Office and saying that things are confidential, even processes. We're not talking about information of people, individual cases where people have been abused. We're talking about the need for transparency, which seems to be lacking in the way in which this is done.
It's now emerged that included in the documents that he was describing his decision to publish there were confidential information about survivors, including their names and correspondence they'd had with the inquiry. Now, we've now spoken to some of these survivors. Some of them have received death threats as a result of this decision to publish. They're extremely angry. They say they dealt with the inquiry in confidence, believing that their information would be kept confidential, and it wasn't. Keith Vaz has now responded to this information that we've broken today, and he's issued something slightly akin to an apology. This is what he said. Last week, some material from the independent panel inquiry into child sex abuse came into the committee's possession in the course of our inquiry. He added, at the request of the individuals concerned, the material has been redacted to remove references to those individuals. The names of all these individuals were already in the public domain. We've also learnt that Home Secretary Theresa May was extremely angry that this information had been released. She's written to Keith Vaz and asked him to apologise to the survivors and as a whole for the process that led to this breach of confidentiality. Yeah, look up contrition in the dictionary. You don't see a picture of Keith Vaz, do you? Thanks, Afua. Well, a little later in the programme, we'll be speaking to 2 of those survivors of abuse who've been named in the published documents. Do stay tuned. That's at 7:30 on Sky News Tonight.
Well, let's go back to one of the stories that Neil was mentioning there, because there's been a lot of anger over some of that information that was leaked and put on the Home Affairs Committee's website. Joining me now is Faye Maxsted, a survivor of child abuse who was named in the document. She's also the Chief Executive of the Survivors Trust, and Lucy Duckworth, a survivor of clerical abuse who was named in the publication. She's also the chair of the Minister and Clergy Sexual Abuse Survivors. Welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us on Sky News Tonight. What was your reaction to seeing this information published on the website like that?
Obviously, it's very distressing, but I think the most concerning thing for us was the content and most certainly the attitude of some panel members, even though it was private correspondence, but that was held about survivors. The fact that this was already about people whose names are in the public domain, is that what you're referring to? Our names are in the public domain in terms of campaigning and trying to make sure that we get an open and transparent inquiry. And I think the content of those emails clearly reveal that that's not the view held by the panel members in question. In fact, this is information that was leaked, so that must be particularly upsetting.
That's right. I mean, the real relevance of this is the fact that information that was confidential to the panel was leaked, and that reflects on actually the unprofessionalism that some members of the panel have shown, and reflects on really how the chaos that we've seen in trying to get this inquiry started. And I think this is just an after effect of that, really. And it's potentially really damaging to survivors, it's damaging to survivor organisations. We really need to unite on this and see a positive way forward. In the meantime, of course, Keith Vaz tonight has said, you know, we've redacted the information after complaints. Have either of you had an apology, though? We've not spoken to Keith Vaz yet, and I look forward to when we can, and I look forward to working with the Home Affairs Select Committee and the Home Office and the Secretariat to find a way forward with this. And I
do believe that Theresa May is committed to ensuring this inquiry does deliver, and I think she has the powers to do that. It's just we need to move forward now from there.
Well, talking of moving forward, I mean, Theresa May has said that she hopes to announce the new chair of this inquiry by the end of the month, i.e. by the end of this week, and put a shortlist in front of survivors groups ahead of that. Any clearer as to who we might see heading this as yet? Have you heard anything as yet?
I think we're really looking forward to that announcement, and I think there's, I think everybody is nationwide really, and hoping that we make sure that it's whoever tasks with the job is willing to work with all the expertise that's already on the ground.
The statement that the Home Secretary has made is that, you know, she believes that the inquiry needs statutory powers and that it will move forward on that basis. And, you know, we believe that there is a commitment there for that to happen, and that's what we're looking forward to.
And, of course, this is just the latest in a series of blunders that affected this inquiry. What does this mean for your faith in it? I mean, are you confident that it is going to go ahead and it will deliver results?
There is a huge belief amongst survivors and a need amongst survivors for this inquiry to go forward. I have every faith that it will go forward with statutory powers. There has been too much released into the public domain. Too much knowledge now is out there about the extent and the damage of institutional and organised abuse. It won't be stopped. It will go ahead, and we want to support it as Survivors Alliance and as individuals.
But the way it's been handled so far, has that been damaging in terms of survivors' confidence when it comes to actually taking part with this inquiry, do you think?
I think it's certainly, I mean, obviously damage has been done, and it's been a very chaotic start, and we've been deeply disappointed about that. But what we can take from it is that many groups like ours have come together, and we have spoken to the Home Office. We've had many meetings with the Home Secretary, with Home Office officials, and there is clear evidence they are listening and they are acting on what we are saying. And we've got a lot of hope with that. And I think that, you know, certain panel members' positions, that they are now untenable, and we can move forward from this. We can learn a lot of lessons. But what the most important thing we need to do now is win back that trust of survivors. And it's evidence of the anger and the pain that child abuse causes. And this is why we need this inquiry.
Indeed. Thank you both for joining us here in Sky News tonight.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thanks.